Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive with us.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to be talking about the International Coaching Federation's brand new competency model.
Fuck.
And specifically, we're looking at a document that came out in September of 2024 called ICC Coach Educator Competencies 2024 09.0.pdf.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, this is like their gold standard for what they think makes a great coach educator.
Exactly.
So this is a really important topic, whether you are a coach yourself, thinking about becoming a coach.
Absolutely.
Or maybe you just want to know what goes into like making a really impactful coach training program.
Definitely. And you know what's really interesting about this document is that the ICF, they don't actually run coach training programs themselves.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they accredit programs.
Okay.
But they don't actually deliver the education directly.
I see.
So these competencies, they set the standard for the entire field.
Wow. So they're kind of like setting the rules of the game, but not actually playing the game.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah.
This model lays out the expectations for any program that wants to be recognized as high quality.
Okay.
And so that's why this deep dive is so important, because it has a ripple effect on the whole coaching profession.
I can totally see why this would be so valuable for, like I said, anyone who's either a coach or thinking about becoming a coach.
Yeah.
Or just, maybe they've been through a coach training program and they're like, wait a minute, what should I have been looking for? Or what should I have been expecting?
Yeah. How does this all work?
Right.
Yeah. And one thing that's important to clarify is when we say coaching education, the ICF has a specific definition for that.
Oh, okay.
It's not just about like imparting knowledge. It's really about facilitating a transformation in the learner.
Oh, wow.
So they're developing their skills. Yeah, of course.
Right.
But also like their own unique coaching identity.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So it's a lot deeper than just like, here's the steps to do X, Y, Z.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So we're talking about transformation. We're talking about developing this identity as a coach. And you mentioned earlier that the coach educators themselves, they kind of wear multiple hats.
Yes.
It's not just about, standing at the front of the classroom and being like, okay, here's how you do this.
Right.
What are some of the roles that stand out to you when you think about what a coach educator does?
Well, the document highlights the coach educator as a coach.
Okay.
Instructor and facilitator.
Oh, wow.
So they're not just delivering content.
Right.
They're guiding the process and mentoring individuals.
So it's like being a coach to the coaches.
Yeah. And being able to facilitate a learning environment.
Right.
So yeah, very multifaceted.
Wow.
And requires a unique blend of skills.
Now I'm seeing why this competency model is so important, because there are actually 7 competencies.
Yes.
In addition to what's expected of an individual coach.
Yes, that's right.
So we're not just saying, okay, you're a great coach, so you're automatically going to be a great coach educator.
Exactly.
There's this whole other layer.
Absolutely.
And it's really focused on, like you said, how they design programs, the environment they create, and ultimately how they guide the people who will then become coaches.
That's right. That's right.
Wow. Okay. So we've got 7 competencies.
Yeah.
Where should we even start with this?
Well, I think a good place to start is with ethical practice.
Okay.
Because I feel like that's the foundation.
Right.
Everything else kind of builds on that.
Ethical practice makes sense.
Yeah.
But I noticed that it's not just about saying, hey, coach educator, be ethical.
Right.
It seems like they're putting a lot of emphasis on the coach educator's role in actually instilling ethical behavior in their learners. Why is that distinction so important?
Well, I think it's about recognizing that ethical practice in coaching isn't just about following the rules.
Okay.
It's about cultivating a certain mindset. So the coach educator is modeling those values.
Right.
And helping future coaches really grapple with those tougher questions.
Like the should we questions as opposed to just the how do we do this?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
I see. And there's that interesting point in there about recommending additional resources.
Yes.
If a learner needs something that's beyond the scope of the program.
Yes.
It's not just like, oh, sorry, we don't cover that here.
Right. It would be easy to just say that.
Yeah.
But this competency is saying, no, you need to go further.
Okay.
And that shows you're putting the learner first.
Right.
You're putting their well-being ahead of maybe making more money off.
Wow. Yeah. And I think that also speaks to the trust.
Yes.
Definitely. That it builds when you as the educator are willing to say, you know what, I don't have everything you need, but I'm going to help you find it.
Exactly. And, I can help you find the resources or point you in the right direction.
Right.
To get what you need.
That's awesome. Okay, so we've got this foundation of ethical practice.
Yes. What about continuous learning and development? What does that one tell us?
So that competency highlights that, being a coach educator isn't about just reaching a finish line.
Oh, okay.
And saying, okay, I've learned everything I need to know.
Right.
The field is constantly evolving.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially with all of the cultural and global shifts happening right now.
It seems like such a huge responsibility.
It is.
To stay on top of all of that and how it impacts coaching.
It is a big responsibility because the world is changing so fast.
Right.
That it really impacts how we coach, who we coach.
Yeah.
And even what challenges coaching can address.
So the coach educator really needs to be like at the forefront of all of that.
Yes, definitely.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's not even just about teaching coaching. It's almost like shaping the future of coaching.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got ethical behavior, continuous learning.
Mm-hmm.
What about creating a really positive learning environment?
Right. So that's where the inclusive learning environment competency comes in. Okay.
And this goes beyond just saying, be nice to everyone.
Right.
It's about really cultivating what the document calls a generative learning environment.
Generative learning environment.
Yes.
I'm not sure I totally get what that means.
Okay, so think of it as a space where differences aren't just tolerated, but they're actively leveraged to create a richer experience for everybody.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
So it's really about saying those differences are a strength.
Exactly.
And they actually make the learning better for everyone.
They enhance the learning.
I love that. Okay, so we've got ethical behavior, continuous learning, inclusive environment. Yeah. What about actually teaching the stuff?
Okay, well, so that's where the delivering educational content competency comes in.
Makes sense.
And this one surprised me a little.
Oh, really?
Because it actually talks about embracing conflict.
Oh, I saw that. I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
Because it even mentions using conflict as a source of learning. How does that work?
Well, coaching often involves having tough conversations.
Right.
No. Right. And helping clients through disagreements.
Yeah.
So a good coach educator doesn't shy away from those moments in the classroom.
Oh, that's interesting.
So they create that safe space for disagreement.
Okay.
And they model how to turn conflict into an opportunity to learn.
That's such a good skill for just life in general.
It is, yeah.
Not even just coaching, but just dealing with people.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's not just about okay, here's the information you need to know. It's actually about facilitating this whole process of learning and growth.
It is, and one of the ways to ensure that's effective is through assessment.
Okay.
Which is where the assessing learning competency comes in.
Right, and I think that's what a lot of people think about when they think about okay,
tests and quizzes.
Yeah. How do we know if people are actually learning?
Right.
But this is interesting because it's not just about assessing the learners.
Right.
It's actually about the coach educators looking at their own teaching.
Yeah.
Getting feedback.
Yes. Constantly evaluating.
Wow.
Seeking feedback, always looking for ways to improve.
So it's like that continuous improvement thing again.
Exactly.
Even for the people who are teaching.
Yeah. They're never done.
Wow. We've covered a lot.
We have.
And we're only on competency number 5.
I know. It's a lot.
So listener, don't worry. We'll be back in part 2 to keep going.
Oh, yes, we will.
But this has already been so interesting.
It has.
I'm really excited to learn more.
Me too.
All right. So we'll be back soon with the rest of the competencies.
Sounds great.
All right. So welcome back to our deep dive into the world of coach educators. Yeah. We've learned so much already about what makes them tick.
I have.
Everything from that ethical practice piece to how important it is to create a really inclusive space for learning.
Yes.
And I'm excited to dive into these last 2.
Okay.
To really see how all of these pieces that we've been talking about come together. So where do we go from here?
Well, we've talked about a strong ethical foundation,
right.
Embracing continuous learning, fostering that inclusive learning environment.
Yeah.
But what about the actual program itself?
Okay.
Like the nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
And that's where develops curricula and programs comes in.
Okay, so this is where we get into the actual curriculum design.
Yes.
What are we teaching? How are we teaching it? And who are we teaching it to?
Exactly.
Okay.
And what I find really interesting about this competency is that it emphasizes intentionality at every stage.
Okay.
So the coach educator isn't just, throwing together some random activities, calling it a curriculum.
Got it.
They're carefully considering the outcomes.
Okay.
Aligning the content with the standards and incorporating all those best practices that we've talked about.
So they're really creating a roadmap for this learning journey.
That's a great analogy.
Right. Like there are milestones along the way. There's an end destination in mind.
Yes.
And I really appreciate the emphasis on communicating those expectations to learners.
That's so important.
Like here's what you can expect to experience. Here's what you can expect to learn.
Yeah. You should know what you're getting yourself into.
Right. And I think that just sets everybody up for success.
Yeah. And it makes sure everyone's on the same page right from the beginning.
And it helps them see how each piece fits into the bigger picture.
Exactly.
Like, okay, why are we doing this weird icebreaker game?
Exactly.
This actually connects to this bigger piece.
It all makes sense in the end.
Okay.
Right.
So, and this is where I think it gets really interesting because remember how we talked about the ICF?
Yeah.
Having those different levels of credentials?
Right.
This competency also talks about aligning the program with that credential level.
Yes.
So it's not just one size fits all.
Exactly.
It's really about tailoring it to who these learners are and what they're trying to accomplish.
That's right. And to the ethical frameworks.
Right, which is so important.
Yes.
Okay, so we've got this well-designed program, clear expectations, everyone knows why they're there. What about the support piece?
Okay, well, that's where provides guidance and support comes in.
Okay.
And this competency really, speaks to the heart of what makes a great coach educator. It's about holding that safe space.
Okay.
Where learners can really blossom into their roles as coaches.
I think when I first read this one, I thought it would be all about like, okay, you have a question, I'm going to answer it.
Right.
Or you did this, here's some feedback.
Yeah.
But it's actually a lot deeper than that, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's about really, helping them process the information.
Right.
Helping them connect the dots, encouraging them to learn from their challenges.
I saw that in there where it talks about encouraging learners to reflect on their own biases.
Yes.
Which is such a powerful piece.
It is, yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people would think about that as being part of coach training.
Right. But it's so important for the coach to be aware of their own biases.
Exactly, so that they can be more effective.
Yeah, and so they can show up in a way that's really serving their clients.
And I think that's really what sets a great coach educator apart, is that it's not just about the content.
Yeah.
It's about helping them grow as a person.
Yes, absolutely.
I love that. Okay, so we've got ethical practice, continuous learning, inclusive environment, thoughtfully designed curriculum, ongoing guidance and support.
Yes.
That's a lot.
It is.
But I feel like there's got to be a piece about how do we know if this is all working?
Yes, you're right.
Like, how do we know if it's actually making a difference?
Okay, so that's where our final competency comes in, and it's called Assesses Learning, Educational, and Program Success.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
It is, yeah, and it's basically all about using data and feedback to continuously evaluate and improve the program.
So this is where the metrics come in.
Yes, the measurement.
Right, okay.
And it's really, an extension of all the other things we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Because it's about that continuous improvement.
That seems to be like the theme.
It is a big theme, yeah.
Always striving for excellence.
Yes, and one detail that I found really interesting was that it emphasizes gathering feedback from multiple sources.
Oh, okay.
So not just the learners.
Got it.
But peer educators.
Okay.
Program administrators.
So it's like a 360-degree view
exactly.
of how is this program doing?
Yes. Are we hitting the mark?
Is it actually accomplishing what we're setting out to do?
Yeah. Are we making a difference?
Wow. That's pretty intense.
It is. But all that feedback and all that data, it's not just collected and filed away.
Okay.
It's used to make decisions about how to improve the program.
I see. So it's really an ongoing cycle.
It is. It's that cycle of reflection, evaluation, and then action.
I like that. So it's not just like, okay, we did a survey.
Right.
Now we're done.
It's not a check mark.
It's really about, okay, what did we learn from that?
Yeah.
How can we do better next time?
Exactly. How can we make this even better?
Wow. It's really cool to see how all these competencies intertwine and build on each other.
They really do.
Wait a minute.
Oh.
What?
There's one more.
Yes, there is one more.
And it sounds like a big one.
It is a big one.
Okay.
And it kind of ties everything together.
Okay.
And really, gets to the heart of what it means to be a coach educator.
Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into these coach educator competencies. And we've been building up to this last one.
I know.
It sounds pretty exciting.
It is exciting.
So lay it on us.
It's called Advancing the Quality of Coaching Education.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just about like the individual coach educator. It's about like the whole field.
Yeah, it's about raising the bar.
For everybody.
For the entire profession. Yeah. But how does like one person actually contribute to something that big?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Well, you know how we talked about the ICF?
Yeah.
They don't actually deliver the education.
Right. They set the standards.
They set the standards.
Yeah.
So this competency is about how coach educators use their influence within their programs, institutions, and the broader coaching community to champion those standards.
I see.
And push for continuous improvement.
So it's like they're becoming advocates for quality coaching education.
Exactly.
Wow, I like that.
So they're not just like doing their own thing in their little corner of the world.
Right.
They're actually saying, no, this matters.
Yeah.
And I'm going to help make the whole field better.
And they're also modeling it through their own behavior.
Exactly.
You know, like walking the walk.
Yeah, walking the walk.
Not just talking the talk.
Right.
Okay, so it's like this ripple effect.
Yeah, it is a ripple effect.
Yeah, where they're influencing their learners, but then it goes beyond that.
It goes beyond that to the whole field.
It's the institutions they're working with or, you know, even just the people they're talking to about coaching.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, so this is really about like leaving a legacy.
It is. It's about raising the bar for everyone.
I'm really starting to see why this competency is like the big finale.
The culmination.
Yeah.
It's like it takes all those other pieces and says, okay, now what are you going to do with it?
Right. You've got all this knowledge and skills and ethical grounding.
Yeah.
Now go out and make the world a better place.
Exactly.
Through coaching.
Yes.
I love that.
It's exciting.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive.
It has been.
You know, we've talked about so much.
Yeah.
Everything from, you know, ethical practice and continuous learning, creating those inclusive spaces.
Yes.
Designing a really strong curriculum. And it's clear that like being a coach educator is so much more than just knowing about coaching.
Exactly.
It's really about like a way of being.
It is a way of being.
It's a commitment to these values and this ongoing growth.
And a passion for developing other coaches.
Right. And putting those awesome coaches out into the world.
Exactly.
So listener, as we wrap up, we want to leave you with this question.
Okay.
Knowing all of this now, what would you look for in a coach education program? Or a coach educator?
What would be your must-haves?
Right. What would make you say, oh, yeah, this is the one for me?
Yeah. Are they walking the walk?
Exactly.
Are they living these competencies?
Right. Yeah. So keep exploring.
Yes.
Learning. And remember, the world needs great coaches.
We do need great coaches.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.